Welcome, Tabletalks number 10. Today I invited two guests for a change, and I'd like to talk with you about guts, our guts. And in myofascial energetic release, we work with guts in the sense that we work with myofascia, so the muscular tissue, and there's a lot of holding in that, emotionally wise, and also overwork wise. And when it's relaxed and people still have pain in their guts, then there might be something else in order here, and that's way out of my jurisdiction. So I invited Hugo and Petra here to talk about this. Hugo is also my fascial energetic release therapist in process, and Petra is a specialist in gut problems and a nutrition, naturopath and nutrition. So it's interesting to find out what's the next step if the myofascial energetic release doesn't really do the job. Then there's more things that you can do in order to heal yourself. And I'm curious about healing people, and they are also. That's our common interest. And so there's a couple of things that can be in stake. And that's leaky gut, which is, I just learned from Petra, it's triggered by fight, flight, freeze response. Then we leak our guts because we need that nutrition, but you can tell more about that. And you also, because it's also, that's where you come in. And but there can also be something if you have a lot of weight, and that's the case, that you have a lot of pain in your myofascia, then you probably are too heavy and you try to lose weight, but it doesn't work. And then there's something else in your intestines going on, which it cannot digest the stuff that you eat. Even if you eat really little food, then it still can go wrong. I'm not an expert, so these things I like to talk about with Hugo and Petra. And the first thing I like to talk is, if you go into this unrelaxed state of fight, flight, freeze, what happens to your guts? Who wants to answer that?
I think that's one for Petra.
Well, what could happen is that if you are in an emergency situation, which can be caused by fight, flight, something is getting activated.
Yeah.
Then what happens is your gut gets leaky instantly. So what happens? Everything that's inside the gut, whether it's digested or not yet, it's being pushed throughout the intestines into the bloodstream and sent out to your muscles and your joints, so that you can flight easily from wherever you are or whatever is going on. The thing is, this is a natural mechanism when, for example, your house is on fire or you're being chased by a lion. But what happens nowadays is that these fight-flight moduses happen more often every day because we are being chased by stress. And stress can be in many forms. Stress in your private life, in work, social media. And then this same system, in a smaller way, works the same way. So then you press some stress onto the intestines, so your microbiome and the intestines itself are always under stress, in higher tension mode.
The parasympathetic mode changes into the sympathetic mode to fly, to fight, and so on.
Yeah. There's a lot to say about Stephen Porges and this fight, flight, freeze responses in the vagus nerve, and we work with this in myofascial energetic release. But and I didn't know this, what also happened in your guts is this system to prepare your body and to go into to have extra energy and to be prepared. And that's really interesting. Thank you for pointing this out. And the other thing is, when people are struggling with over or underweight also, then there can be also something else going on in the guts. Can you explain something more about that?
Yeah, what happens basically is if there is a disturbance or a disbalance inside the intestines, then the stuff that you eat, even if it's healthy, doesn't get absorbed properly. So there's things going on, and so you either digest it half or not good enough, and that gives damage inside the intestines, but also you get a lack of those nutrients that are inside the food that normally should be absorbed. So what happens then is you get a lack of nutrients also in other parts in the body. So you get more tired, or you can't sleep properly, or your hormones are getting in disbalance. So many things can happen if the gut is not able to digest it properly. And that can, well, the reason for that can be very many options basically. But if there is a disbalance in the microbiome itself, then either you have too much of the not good bacteria, or some of the ones are good, but they have an overgrowth. So then
by eating ice cream all the time, for
example,
instance.
yeah, then that's food that's only on one side of everything that we need. So what happens then is if you only have to live on those ice cream nutritional values, well, that's really low, of course. So then the microbiome gets out of balance because you really need to feed it.
Yeah. The normal response of the body is that it wants to balance the system out to what is being given to it, and in this case it's been given too much of one side of the spectrum of nutrition. I understand.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what happens to the microbiome then?
It also gets very disbalanced. So then you only see one spectrum of the microbiome, that it's growing and growing and growing, and the other part is really, well, getting less and less and less. So that means that your problems are getting worse.
Yeah.
So then if you only have specific nutrients that you get inside, then only one part of the body can fully work and can fully use those nutrients. So you get a lack on the other side. So if you don't eat, for example, enough protein, but you only focus on vegetables and you don't eat any protein, then in the end you will see that by the lack of protein you get a lack of all sorts of minerals and vitamins, and that can cause, of course, many different problems inside the system.
And that's the physical part. You have also an emotional part. I learned in Belgium from a Maya doctor. He had a big practice for people who have emotional problems, and then he showed me that when that's the case, they put it away. So they can put it away in the gut area. And he learned that when you are working on that and you give attention to that, and people are healing in the leaky gut, for example, then when it's healed, suddenly they start to talk about their emotional problems, a divorce or losing a child or something like that. So he said, when you are not healed in your leaky gut, you're not able to talk about your emotions, because you first have to heal, and when you are healed, then you have space to talk about your problems. So that's also a way of influencing your microbiome and the state of your mucosa layers in your gut who protects you from damaging. That's also important. So that's also something what can be taken with it. That you have to act on that also.
You have to take notice of. It's true, because we feel with our guts. That's what we do. So in this case, it's even more important to listen to this emotional layer of this discussion, because the emotional layer of this discussion is that if you don't want to feel, you want to push the feelings away, and then some people start eating a lot, start eating one thing that they love a lot, and then there's something happening in the microbiome in your guts that is not really healthy, and you can really damage stuff there. Is there a way to restore this damage? Because I treat people and they get in touch with their emotional layers and they want to get rid of that, and they look at it, they're more for it, they look into it, and they want to get out, and they start to get out, but then they still have this weight or this underweight or the pain somewhere in their bodies, or their intestines, the feces are not right, and there's something wrong there, and that or they have colic, or they have other kind of dysfunction of their guts, and but they don't know where to go to. Is there a possibility to restore your gut?
Yes, there definitely is. And I think the first thing that it's important to see what is going on. So once you have done your session and you see that, like emotional part is getting healed, then maybe you're left over with really more a physical problem. And that could be a disbalance in the microbiome itself. It could be a damage with the mucosa layers. It could
which is just in.
Oh yeah, on the inside of the intestines you have many mucosa layers, so it's like a slimy
layers,
layers and
fascia.
Yeah, exactly, and they help you to absorb nutrients from your food.
Yeah.
So if there's damage in there and there's not enough of the right bacteria to digest all the types of food that you eat, then you really have a physical problem. And sometimes when our immune system in the intestines is low, then all sorts of other viruses or bacteria can enter our system more easily. So think about parasites, what we see a lot, that can be on food or could be in water. So it's also important that you look into that to eat clean, to live clean, to protect your gut. But still, many people are infected with these kind of things because their immune system in the microbiome system is low.
Yeah.
So what you can do, and what I think is important, is to find out what is the status of my microbiome, to see if everything is in balance, how is the digestive system working, how is the gallbladder, the liver.
So the substance, the slimy fascia layer, you investigate. How do you do that?
You can use a test, a microbiome test, and that's a research that they do on the feces that you send in. It's like a
feces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a big lab that we work with, and they can really find out what types of disbalances there is in all those bacteria or all those other systems inside the microbiome.
Okay, that sounds super expensive and complicated.
I think price-wise it's okay if you see what the results are. If you see what they can do nowadays in big regular labs, it's basically amazing.
What lab you work with?
I work with the Medivere Gamedi lab, and they have...
is that in Holland somewhere?
Yes, it is in Holland.
Oh, okay.
And many therapists are linked to that laboratory, and we have studied the microbiome for many years, and we are able to read those results.
Because I read one, and it's Chinese for me.
It's really complicated,
It's complicated to read this.
No,
but you're an expert on reading this, right?
Yes, we did many research and some study on it, so we are able to read it. And also what I think is important, that you, with these results, you really get yourself guided by a professional so that they can tell you what's going on inside. What is it that we see here? So we don't focus only on okay, this bacteria is out of balance or this one, but we try to combine it into a bigger situation to see, okay, where is it all linked to? Yeah. And if it's a problem with digesting, or is it a problem with the nutritional part, or is it more that we can see that the food you eat is not properly linked to your intestines? So there's many options there.
So when I send somebody that only eats, let's say again, ice cream,
yeah.
You can see on the test results that the person is only eating ice cream, and that there's something wrong in the rest of the spectrum of the bacteria and microbes that help to get your guts healthy.
If it would only be for 1 week that you eat it, then not a lot will happen. But what we see mostly is that people really have different diets for like many years, or they hardly eat any vegetables, or they only eat specific candy, like a lot of sugars. Then if you look at the results, test results from such a test, then you definitely can see, okay, specific types of bacteria are causing problems because of your way of living food-wise.
Yeah. So you only want to go to you when you really want to work on your emotional and also on your gut problems.
Yeah.
Because it will come out anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
We are training people to read the results so that they can help people properly. And you talk about the cost, and it's important. sometimes it's possible to do only the check on the inflammation, and that's more cheap. So when therapists or doctors are knowing I have to check only the inflammation side, then you can for not a really amount of money, you can check it, and then you know there is something wrong with the inflammation. We have to help the immune system to react and to boost.
Yeah.
And in the broadened way, when you need a total check of the whole bacteria in DNA testing, sequencing, then you need an expensive test. But then you have a real big amount of information to work on and to help them go further.
So the amount of inflammation says that you have to do it or not?
No, not only, but doctors and therapists who are well known with the possibilities in testing, they will know which test you will need to, so you can choose.
To determine if you can do it.
It doesn't have to be expensive. When it's necessary, okay, but not always.
Okay.
It depends.
Yeah. And we will decide together with the client what would be the best way to test it. So you have like a really big test which basically tests almost everything. But you also have smaller tests like Hugo said, and
which
then
are cheaper.
And that's depending on the complaints from the client.
What you found. When you don't expect parasites, then you don't have to test on parasites.
Exactly.
When it's possible, then you have to do it also.
And then you know it all. Then you have this big diagram with all these little graphics, and then you know. And then they give it to you and they say, hey, this is me.
Yeah.
Inside.
Yeah. Then I start reading it and try to explain it more into a practical way. Because what all those bacteria do, that's very complicated. It's also not necessary for you to know. The most important thing is what is necessary to know is what's the end result? What does it do? And is there a reason why I have these complaints? So I always try to link it. So basically when somebody comes like, I always have obstipation or diarrhea. And then we take the results and we show them what the root cause of those complaints can be. And then of course what's the most important thing is what to do with it.
Yeah,
that
was my next question.
Yeah, that's the best thing, is that we can give you advice on lifestyle changes if necessary. Lifestyle changes could be when you eat or how you eat. For example, how you eat is watching television and really quickly and not chewing at all. That's one way of lifestyle of how you can eat. And also we look into what types of food are good now for you. So it doesn't mean that those types of food that you cannot eat anymore, that should not be for like the rest of your life. But sometimes when you are into restoring the gut, then specific foods need to be left out to get the gut more relaxed. And then with different types of good food, you can really restore it. And when it's restored, we always live by the 80-20 rule, that in 80% of the time you eat what's good for your microbiome, for you as a person, and then that 20% can be a little bit cheating.
Okay. And that's again the physical side, and we know a lot of sayings about the gallbladder and on the liver and on the stomach, which pronounce what is going on the emotional side. Do you have something on your liver? Can you spit it out? It's too heavy for me. So, and that's the emotional side, which can tells us also a lot.
I know. You have to work on both sides of the spectrum. I know. But that's why I invited you also, because I was lost. And people come back into their emotional part when they don't work on the physical part, and vice versa. So, and it's nice to know. And then I came across this documentary about your guts and what can be wrong there, and then and it's puzzled me, and then I met you, and so now we're sitting here, and that's great because now we can share it with people, and at least with the people I know, and that's why I do it in English, because there's quite a lot of people not in Dutch speaking. So what else can we do? What's the end result as an advice? What for example, you talked about some supplements or different ways of eating, or what's the direction to go in the next phase of this?
Yeah, so after you have the results and then you get your personalized advice, that's very important. It's never general, it's always personalized, because you also look you also always look at the person. Like, for example, if you're a truck driver and you drive internationally, I have some of them in my practice, and then I can tell them all these interesting things that they have to cook, but there's no time and there's nothing to heat it. And so you really have to move with the client to see, you know, if you want to have lifestyle changes, it should be, you know, linked to their personal life, and if it's possible.
Yeah.
And if you are a working mom and you have to cook 5 different dinners for everyone to feed their microbiome, that's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
So it's the part of lifestyle is bigger than people think.
Yeah.
So it's very important to take a look into their lives. How do they deal with their daily
It has
life?
to fit in the daily life.
Yeah, exactly. And how are they dealing with their emotions? And how can you adjust your advice to that type of life?
Yeah.
And small steps are mostly the best ones.
Yeah.
It's also with losing weight. You know, if you lose weight very fast, then what we see is mostly you gain weight very soon.
Yeah.
Because then people do like those crash diets, and that hardly ever works. So
Yeah.
with this, it's also step by step you change your lifestyle. So what type of foods do you buy? How do you prepare it? How do you eat it? And when do you do that? And also,
And why?
Why exactly? And then the quality of the food is important. And also, if there is really damage, if there's anything damaged inside, then with natural products from like herbs or supplements, you can really support that restore part. Because food is like the main thing, but sometimes you need, well, extra things to get the system going and to get it more repaired.
Yeah. So you are what you eat.
That's really
literally.
true. Yeah, that's really true. And then it depends on what we find in the results, on how quickly you get it solved. Sometimes it's quite easy, because then you find out that it's really specific food that they eat every day that is really is the root cause of almost all the problems in the gut. And then if you have changed it and they change their diet, then it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you should be so lucky that it's only that.
Yeah.
So it really varies on what we find in the results, for how long it takes to restore it.
Yeah.
And then it's almost always necessary that you keep that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to supplement something. It's not only what you're eating is who you are, it is also what you taking from your gut into your bloodstream is what you are. Because when you eat the right stuff but it doesn't come in, then you have your problem.
Yep.
And when you eat the wrong stuff and it runs in, then you have a bigger problem than only eating it and it goes away. So it's very important is what can go into your bloodstream and which can't. You need your nourishment, and you don't need the stuff you don't like. So it's also important.
But you can read it from the results of investigation of your
investigation.
feces.
Because all those bacteria, especially the overgrowth, will show you, basically what's going on. It will not tell you, banana or tomato is not good for you, but it will tell you groups of foods might be a problem, like for example, too many carbs or too many types of protein that can be, so you can tell by the gut whether it's a vegan gut, for example. That's really a specific thing that shows you what disbalance it can be. You can also have a result where you see that people ate way too much proteins and mostly from animal
like
origin.
me lately.
Sometimes when people eat that like for a long time, you can tell if it's a keto gut or if it's a vegan gut. So they have specific things, because in the end the diversity is the most important thing, because if you don't feed all of those guys that are in there, then some of them will just say bye, and other ones will feel space to grow, but mostly overgrow.
What I learned last year is very interesting. We have when we digest, there is motion over the gut from here to down. But when we don't eat, there is also motion, MMC, migrating motor complex. But there is, at the moment, when we look around us, people always eating or drinking something. And it will mean that the MMC is not there anymore. So the cleaning stuff the 4 hours not eating, not drinking, and cleaning up the gut is no longer there anymore, because every hour we take something in and then it stops.
Yeah.
And we start digesting again.
And what do you think is the main reason that people don't stop eating? They just go on and on, putting little things in their mouth. What do you think?
It's available. It's available, easy available. We have money enough to buy in most cases. It's everywhere available, so we don't have to hunt anymore. You can buy it. Perhaps there are some emotional things what makes that you want to eat something.
I think it's that.
I think emotionally it's very big problem.
Filling the void, filling this emptiness.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of emptiness. And I come across a lot of people that don't have a lot of zin. What's zin in English? I can't find the word.
They're not in the mood?
No, it's the thing that you want to do the most in life, that you are really into, that you want to do. And people are bored, basically. And when they are bored, they can't fill the void in this sense. And that's what I met in my practice room. I met it a lot, that people are in that space. And they are held in that space by social media, for instance, by watching YouTube movies all the time. And they are in this sequence of watching YouTube movies, and it's fed and it's fed in your interest all the time. So you can never stop. But you're not doing it. You're only watching it. So there's a gap, there's a void, there's an emptiness, and that's my opinion. It's only my opinion, but it's also what I see in people, that in the meantime they have to fit, especially people from the oral character structure. They want to fill that void, and everybody has this a little bit. Me a little bit more because I have this wound, but other people have different wounds. But that's an emotional aspect, and we are more sensitive than we think we are. And I think that you're right, that is an emotional aspect in stake here.
Yeah, and I think also that if you look at neurotransmitters, then for example dopamine and serotonin are also linked to this process.
Exactly.
Because if you have this void, this emptiness, you don't have any passion, no focus, then you're not connected with you yourself, and then
passion was the word I was looking for. Sorry.
And then you see that for example dopamine levels can lower. So then you try to give yourself some energy, and that's basically in the form of sugars or any snack that you can find, and then you just keep on eating, waiting for your system to give you that energy to move forward. But that's not the type of energy that you need, but that's what your system basically tries to tell you. But it's not
but
always
you get
right.
it from the wrong source, actually.
Exactly, yeah. And if you look at these neurotransmitters, a big part of it is it's produced in the brain, but a big part is also produced in our second brain. That's also why we call it our second brain, the gut. So basically there are even specific bacteria in our gut, the neuroactive bacteria, that create those neurotransmitters in the gut. And then they send signals to the brain. But so if the gut is not working, then you also can get lower and lower in these neurotransmitters. And then, your day basically looks really different. Because then you either cannot sleep properly, or you are very sleepy. Or basically you are very tired, and then at night you lie in your bed and you're like staring at the ceiling because all of a sudden you cannot sleep anymore. And this is all linked to, so it's a connection between the food that you eat, what the gut does with it, and how you also digest your your emotions.
Very important here is that we started about flight-fight reactions, and it's controlled by parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves, well known. But in our gut, we have a special system called enteric nervous system, and it is a standalone. So it is influenced by parasympathetic and sympathetic, but it can work as a standalone. And in this standalone, there are the dopamine, the serotonin, so the neurotransmitters are in this independent system. So they can control their cells and doing things they have to do, or without needing the sympathicus and parasympathicus. So there's something else in this second brain which...
So it's an autonomic system influenced by the other
influenced by the other,
nervous
influenced by
system.
the emotions, influenced by the things we eat, but this is standalone. So when you want to sleep, it doesn't say the parasympathetic is on, so my gut is not on or on.
Yeah.
It can do things by themselves.
Yeah, that says a lot about people who have a different day rhythms, and you share this
Exactly.
this investigation with me. It's also interesting when people are in a job which they don't have a 9 to 5 or a normal working rhythm. They are the whole gut system is mixed up because they don't have the 4-hour rest. They don't have the night sleep rest. The whole system is shoveling and looking for balance all the time, and that's where it goes wrong most of the time because you cannot digest the stuff anymore. But that's a whole different aspect.
Yeah, but it's a very important one because I think much more people have these type of problems with their work than we think.
Yeah.
And basically just a while ago we had like an interesting seminar on that. And the most important thing is that there are things to do if you are in this type of work. So then you eat in specific moments and you eat specific foods to support your irregularity of working hours and everything.
Yeah,
so
it's like flight attendants. They want to stay in their own rhythm, and that's the way.
Yeah, so there is a solution, but you need to know first, what's going on in my gut. Yeah. What does my gut tell me? Yeah. To understand. Okay, then for me it's better to eat at this specific time when, for example, you're in a different time zone, or you. So it could also be jet lag. Yeah. So different time zone, or especially when people work at night, then you have to focus on when do I eat my hot meal, what should it contain, and
so that comes with that job actually.
Yeah,
you have to, and we didn't know that.
No, that's a very important thing.
And that's super interesting to know, people, that you, if you have a night job or a irregular job, that to eat different than everybody else in your job for now comes with the job to keep your gut healthy. Yeah. That's basically what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting also. I didn't know that, and it's super interesting to understand this kind of things. But basically where we come back to all the time is the emotional state, which is you can help yourself in this emotional regulation by studying stuff around your nervous system, for instance your nervous vagus, to regulate it into a parasympathetic state, and that really also helps your gut to restore. But when it's damaged or it's compromised by eating different ways, that you can find help, and that's nice. Also nice that we pointed out that when you are in that ventral state, you leak your gut to get extra energy to do the fight, flight, or freeze mode. And that's interesting to know how intelligent our body is. But it's also nice to know that it does it all the time, because we are in that state a lot of time these days, because we are on for too many times. So we have to meditate, we have to find ways to regulate ourselves, and we have to put your phone away for a moment a day or more moments a day. So and don't sleep with that thing next to your bed. This is also, I have this, but I'm playing with this, but this is not staying on my wrist when I sleep. It's tempting because it has all kind of intelligence, and it's super intelligent, and it's nice to understand this, but it's not good for your health, and especially not good for your gut.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
It's very disturbing, and it's extra on top of, and I know, and it's a great guy, this guy that invented all these things. It brought us here, it brought us in another era, but it's also very dangerous for our old-fashioned bodies, because they're not evaluating in that same pace. And that's interesting to understand. So I myself and Roland, I'm keeping doing these kind of little videos to help understand our bodies better, and to heal people. I try to invite interesting people like you. Thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome.
And thank you also.
You're welcome.
And it's interesting to bring up topics that come and help to heal your bodies and heal yourself. So if you are interested, click on the link and stay with us. So you get an email or a notification when we make a new one. I try to do it every other month or so when there's really something really interesting to talk about. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Ja. En nou maar hopen dat het erop staat, hè?